Hello again, and for today, I thought this list would be a troll, but we're going to cover my decade in video games rather than the decade in video games, because as a bit of a primer, I did not buy into a PS4 or an Xbox 360, and I just got a Switch, so I can't really talk about the latter half of the decade. So I'm going to go over the games that I found really fun to play on my time in this decade, with the limitations that I had, which was really an Xbox 360, a Wii, and a PS2, as being my main consoles of operation. I will state, though, that the best console of last decade was not the PS2. It's the fucking GameCube, okay? My GameCube runs beautifully every single fucking game that was made for it, still to this day. And the son of a bitch still is operational. So that makes me really happy as a classic gamer that I can get some GameCube games at some kind of, not trade-in store, but definitely a secondhand video game store that isn't a GameStop, and buy some shit that I really want to play and go to town. So let's talk about games that I enjoyed this decade. Now, number 10 is going to be Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock. I was a Guitar Hero nut. I love playing Guitar Hero. Wasn't as big of a fan of Rock Band as everyone else was. Everyone else really loved the Rock Band aesthetic and, playing around with Fenders and, the weird controller layout. I was really not a fan. I loved harmonics, though. So I bought up until 3. So that was where I kind of keeled off. And, of course, the set lists in both games are excellent. The DLC on Rock Band probably is better, but for me, Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock was something that helped me get, not back into music, but definitely keep going with music, finding new music. With the initial Guitar Hero game specifically, it's what got me into rock and roll and heavy metal music, so, blame them. But Warriors of Rock continues the Guitar Hero tradition, adding in lots of cool features. You still got some great ESP and Ibanez deals, so you can be playing some sick gits in the game. And what can I say other than it's a Guitar Hero game, and unfortunately it's the last good one, so that's why it's on my list. Let's move into number 9. Number 9 is Telltale's The Walking Dead, and for my money, it's the only successful Telltale game. All the other ones that they released were buggy, but this one was a very seamless, flawless narrative game in a time where narrative games are getting heaps of praise, even though some of them are absolute shit and cannot handle up to the majesty of last decade's Indigo Prophecy, which is one of the best narrative games. But Telltale's The Walking Dead nearly gives it a run for its money. If it had a couple more gameplay features, I think it would be a really great narrative game. But that being said, the narrative in itself is way better than the television show. I considered Telltale's The Walking Dead, at least the first game, to be canon with Robert Kirkman's original graphic novel. And overall, it's a really fun Georgia zombie story that, ultimately ends in deep loss and tragedy. So that's why this game ends up on my list. Let's move into number 8 with Rockstar's L.A. Noire. To me, this is one of my favorite Rockstar games of all time, and I love Bully. I only really like Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead, but every time Rockstar does something different, I'm usually very wowed, because this is a company that can do whatever they want in terms of developing their own games. And L.A. Noire, for me, was a great narrative game experience that, again, like Indigo Prophecy, had a lot more variety in gameplay as compared to narrative games like Life is Strange and Heavy Rain and shit like that. So that's why I really love L.A. Noire. It's a great noir story in a time where people want more gangster squads and shit like that, and they don't want it to be cheesy. And, L.A. Noire, I think, holds up with some of the more modern stuff, like, not The French Connection. What am I thinking of again? L.A. Confidential, man. Off the record, on the QT, and very hush-hush. So that's why L.A. Noire comes in at number 8. Number 7, we got High Moon Studios' Deadpool, which, for my money, is one of the most fun beat-em-up games of all time. It pays homage to the Daniel Way Deadpool a lot more than more of the more sympathetic Ryan Reynolds Deadpool. But in all, this is, I think, what kind of boosted Deadpool into a higher tier of popularity. I mean, what kind of fucking world do we live in now where, like, B-tier characters can get A-tier games? It's pretty strange, but here's hoping for the Daredevil game on my end as a true Daredevil fan. Again, really fun platformer, really wacky and violent and crass. It's very true to the character, and I think it's one of the better game adaptations from a comic book of this decade, for sure. So, with that being said, let's move on to number 6, which is a kind of blanket award for all LEGO games that were released this decade. However, the best of all of the titles is the LEGO Lord of the Rings trilogy. This is the first LEGO game where they use dialogue from the films. This is the first LEGO game in the Lord of the Rings franchise, and if you can still get a physical copy, I really suggest you do so. This is a very complete game. It's got all 3 films. It's got DLC out the wazoo. Unfortunately, I don't think you can get it anymore, but I have characters like Glorfindel and Elladan and Elrohir, the Sons of Elrond, and as a Lord of the Rings fan, this is one of the better gaming experiences we had this decade. Except for my number 1, which people will fucking really question my taste on. But let's move on to my number 5. It's Transformers War for Cybertron. This is the Transformers experience in video gaming. Not since Transformers Armada have I been really impressed with a Transformers title. And, I mean, if I could just be frank here, it is like the best Transformers game, period. You can roam around Cybertron, multiplayer mode, fucking all of the vehicles are not human-based, they are on Cybertron. It's basically like playing that little opening in Bumblebee, but for like hours of gameplay time. So, as a Transformers fan, again, I am truly satisfied with that experience. I'm truly satisfied with Bumblebee, and it was a really good one. And I hope to keep playing more of Fall of Cybertron, which is also really good. I just have a very visceral experience when it comes to War for Cybertron. So, with that being said, let's move into number 4. Number 4 is part of a franchise that is very near and dear to me, the Koei Warriors franchise. However, this is going specifically to Warriors Orochi 3. Warriors Orochi 3 is the pinnacle of the refinement of the Dynasty Warriors franchise. You got all the great characters from both Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors, the Warriors Orochi bonus characters, a couple other here and there dropped in between, and it's such a complete package. You can kill up to 2,000 enemies. I mean, you're just destroying the battlefield at this point. You are going God mode. And when you see your numbers rack up every time an enemy wave goes down, it's just so beautifully satisfying. I'm just so enamored with myself that I am the strongest warrior on the battlefield whenever I dive into that game, and with my trio of whoever I pick that day. So that is why Warriors Orochi 3 is number 4. Number 2, Batman Arkham City. What a fucking game, folks. What a fucking game. Running around as Batman in Gotham City. You know, if they had the Batman, or sorry, not the Batman, the Batmobile in this game, it would have been game of the decade. But other than that, Batman Arkham City, amazing narrative, excellent voice cast, phenomenal combat, great stealth takedowns, and again, it's just such a good experience of a game. They make Arkham Asylum look like a subpar Batman game. The other games, Arkham Origins and Arkham Knight, could not compare. However, Arkham City made itself truly the pinnacle with the final ending of the game and made it really strongly cemented into the Batman lore. I hope at some point we just get a comics adaptation of Batman Arkham City, because it is that good of a story. And I really don't know what else to say other than, if you haven't played this game, like, what were you doing this decade? Like, this was a big one. One of the big ones, including my number 2 being another big one. So, moving into number 2, we have Mass Effect 2. Now, Mass Effect 2 is one of the greatest RPGs of all time, one of the greatest combat shooters of all time, and one of the best science fiction games of all time. I could not get enough of this sequel. It was too good to handle. The party dynamics, the romance options, all of this was BioWare at its peak, and it's so unfortunate that after this game, they just took a steaming shit. Because, oh man, they made so many good games last decade, and Mass Effect 2 just seemed like another notch on the belt, and they could not deliver whatsoever, and it's really disappointing. So, that's my stance on Mass Effect 2. It is truly a great game. I just wish they were able to finish out the series strong with Mass Effect 3, and Andromeda be something that was actually playable, because that would have been fucking nice. So, with all that being said, let's move into number 1. Now, number 1 is a game that I think only I played, and it is Lord of the Rings: War in the North. This is the pinnacle of Lord of the Rings games. Yeah, you heard it. Not Shadow of Mordor, not fucking Return of the King, not the Two Towers, not that weird Vivendi Hobbit game, not that even weirder Fellowship of the Ring game from last decade. This is it right here, folks. Decimating orcs, decimating Uruk-hai, man, elf, dwarf, fucking destroying Agandaur, one of Sauron's black Númenórean lieutenants, saving the North from overrunning Middle-earth, so that Aragorn and his crew would have more fucking problems. I mean, this is what I love about gaming, and it expands on Lord of the Rings to where I consider this game to be a part of the film's canon, the film's lore. And I couldn't get enough of this fucking game. And even though I am stuck trying to defend one of the dwarven cities from Troll Siege, I couldn't just turn away from this game. I mean, I'm going to be giving my copy to somebody else who should be playing this game so I can go buy the under $50 collector's edition, because I fucking love this game so goddamn much. Enon Zur soundtrack, guy who did Mass Effect and Dragon Age. Just breathtaking Middle-earth visuals. Like, it's like they did research in New Zealand for land textures and shit like that. Great characters, talking eagles, fucking Elrond's sons. I just couldn't get enough, man. And it's a shame that I'm the only one that played this. It really is a shame that I'm the only one that played this. So, let's move into the opinions, because unfortunately, with me in video games, it's going to be short and sweet. There has been a big decline in the quality of games this decade. I kind of see it as the overall culture war being enacted onto video games, and as a result, video games are not as good as they used to be last decade. I was not motivated to get a new console at the time of launch as I was, say, when the 360 came out, and maybe even the PS3 or the Wii. I just felt like we got inferior titles, and only until the Switch was I really motivated to get a console. And yet, the new consoles had nothing to really offer the gamer. It's, we're in 4K now. Oh, we're doing VR, which, it's kind of a botched experiment taken from iToy when it comes to gaming. It's not as great as it could be. However, if the Oculus actually wasn't bought by Facebook, I would have maybe been potentially interested in playing that. Instead, I'm probably going to get a Vive and only play the Ready Player One game, ad infinitum, and call that my VR experience. But, yeah, I wish that I was more motivated to buy a new console. There are definitely games that I would be buying if I had a new console. I just didn't see a point to it. Because, again, you're just offering a higher resolution and tchotchkes. Just fucking, useless items. I just want to play games. Like, I really don't care what system I'm on. I'm pretty sure that's why I regressed back into my GameCube, because it was still highly a functional console. Unlike my my sad PS2 fatty that I can't find the cables for. And hopefully I will, because I would like to revisit the PS2, as I think it is truly a superior console to a lot that's out there on the market. It's just, you know, the GameCube functions for me way better. So, with all that being said, let's talk about Gamergate just a little bit, because it did affect a lot of what happened this decade. You know, you had titles like Battlefield 5, the story mode of Battlefront 2, lots of BioWare shit starting from Mass Effect 3 on, and just constant fucking virtue signaling and lameness coming from, you know, the anti-Gamergate side, who are supposed to be the gaming professionals. And they have effectively ruined this industry. This industry used to be fun, and I don't find anything fun about video gaming anymore. You know, when I see video games, I see the ultimate consumer. I see a person who literally goes, don't ask questions, just consume product and then get excited for next product. Because there's so much wrong in video gaming right now. It's like no one, much like technology, no one is pushing for new innovations in video gaming. We are just kind of treading the wheels at this point, because you can only push your eyeballs to accept so much bit resolution before the uncanny valley effect hits. So we can't be pushing graphics forever. We need to be pushing gameplay. And gameplay hasn't evolved in a fucking decade. And to me, that is kind of tragic. So in the future, I would like for more gameplay-oriented titles. I'm really excited to be on the Switch and be playing some of those more gameplay-oriented titles, because Nintendo seems to only give a shit about, is the gameplay satisfying? And to me, that's what I want as a gamer. I want to be immersed in an experience where I get to control my destiny, because that's kind of what makes video gaming better than real life. And finally, my last point in the video game opinions: fuck mobile games. Mobile games are shit now. Mobile games are garbage. They're freemium crap. And you should not be buying into them, because you are putting money into a black pit that is ruining this industry even worse than anything that happened in Gamergate. And for the record, Gamergate solved nothing. So, yeah, way to go, Consumer Revolt. You really fucking showed them the business. So, in conclusion, video games weren't really that satisfying to me, but I am glad that I found a lot of titles that I did truly enjoy over the decade. I just wish I had the ability to play new consoles and, you know, have a reason to own one, rather than just junking old consoles every fucking time. It's getting as annoying as, like, swapping out a MacBook at this point to me. So, let's wrap this video up. In conclusion, I found some games I liked, a lot of games I wish I could have liked, and a lot of people in the industry have kind of pushed me away from video games. So, to all of these idiots who run around in the video game industry screaming about progressivism while delivering subpar content, you better fucking tread lightly, because the buck will stop at some point.